Hi everyone, welcome. We're going to be starting in 2 minutes time. Hi everyone, glad you could join us today. We're going to be talking about how FinDock, the best practice payment solution all throughout Europe, is now entering Norway, and what that means for you and what that could mean for you. So we have a couple of different speakers today. We have Jamie Sletten from NRC, the Norwegian Refugee Council, who will be sharing some of his experiences working with FinDock. That's going to be a pre-recorded session and he will introduce himself a little bit later. My name is Peter, I'm Senior Solution Engineer at FinDock. I will be showing you a little bit about online and offline payments with Aftale Giro and VIPs later. And my colleague here, Klaas, is going to tell you a little bit about FinDock.
Good morning, my name is Klaas Jansen, work also at FinDock. I'm an account director. But first of all, I will tell a little bit more about FinDock and why we exist and what we are. FinDock is an independent software vendor. We have a solution on the App Exchange in Salesforce and we manage payments on the Salesforce platform 100% natively in Salesforce. And why do we do that? We see organizations managing their payments in different systems, accountings, ERP, custom solutions, but we believe that payments are a customer-centric process and therefore should be managed from the heart of your CRM. And that's what we enable you to do 100% natively in Salesforce. We do this for a long time already. We have multiple customers all over Europe and we are now entering the Nordics by adding Aftale Giro and VIPs to our offering. We do this already for a long time and we also process lots of transactions. In the past 12 months, we processed 60 million transactions over our platform and we managed 2.5 billion euros. So this is not new for us. So what do we offer to our customers? Actually, we offer a native solution on Salesforce that connects to different payment methods and different payment channels. So you can manage your complete payment journey from Salesforce. And we do that because we believe that people should work donor-centric and data-driven. And once you have this unified payment data model on top of your Salesforce environment, you can actually enable and enrich your donor 360 view with this payment data, which enables you to do personalized engagement with your donors based on history or information you have from them. But you also but we also enable you to optimize your internal processes with payment management. For instance, reconciliation, connecting the bank to Salesforce, and your online donations as well. And we facilitate you to increase your income by follow-up journeys on failed direct debits or failed payments, but also by collecting money faster with different ways, because we make it as easy and as enjoyable as possible for your donors and supporters to make that donation. So in our latest release, we actually added Aftale Giro and FIPS, so we now can also support non-profits in Norway. And if you use FinDock, we see that customers really benefit from using our solution. They have better customer insights, enriching their customer 360 view with payment data, but they also increase the data quality, because everything is centralized in one payment data model, a unified payment data model. They actually know about recurring giving, online donations, and this. We don't only look at the donor or the supporter in their experience, but also really work together with employees to improve the user satisfaction. And we get really good feedback of people using our technology and see that it actually makes their life easier instead of technology that forces them to do things that really make their life harder. And then of course we have innovation with new payment methods to add, but also we facilitate your organization in faster reconciliation. Big benefits. We have a report about this, an ROI snapshot that we will share after this webinar. What we offer you is the complete payment journey. So it's not snippets and parts that you can, maybe online donations are connected, but we offer the complete journey. We have a payment API to connect to your website or apps or other solutions where you do your fundraising, but we also offer out-of-the-box fully integrated donation pages, which are called giving pages. We of course process payments one-off and recurring via direct debits, credit cards or VIPs, and we reconcile these payments through our guided matching engine that really makes your life easier in processing payments that come in via bank or other sources. And then we enable you to create payment experiences and adapt to the information that you already have from your donors, and for instance surface them with pre-filled donation forms, but also adapt the amounts that you ask to the previous donor insights that you already captured. So this is what FinDock brings to the table, a native solution on Salesforce in the App Exchange that is based on best practices that we learned through the years using the Salesforce platform. So now you know a little bit about what FinDock is. Let's listen to actually customer experiences of our launching customer, the NRC in Norway, because Jamie Sletten, the Director of Donor Management, Finance and Governance, is willing to share his experiences with FinDock and his partner Fluido, who is implementing FinDock for the NRC. This is a pre-recorded interview, so we'll take some time to view it now. Good morning, Jamie. Thank you for taking the time to actually share your experiences with FinDock. Really appreciate it as the first and launching customer in Norway. But before we deep dive in decisions and experiences with FinDock, could you maybe introduce yourself and the NRC a little bit?
Of course. So my name is Jamie Sletten, and I'm the Director of Donor Management at the Norwegian Refugee Council, otherwise known as NRC. NRC is an organization, it's a humanitarian organization, independent. We work in about 40 countries around the world. And in 2022, we supported over 10 million people. And the focus of the work of NRC is to help people that are forced to flee.
This is great. Thank you for that. So I think almost a year ago we had a first contact, and you were reaching out to FinDock to see if FinDock could be a solution for the energy in Norway. Uh, can you maybe share some of your considerations in looking at FinDock for the energy?
Sure. So maybe to set a little bit of context there, I started in this role about a year ago, and it was quite soon into that process that we could see that one of our greatest vulnerabilities was in the way that we managed payment orchestration for all of our donors. We have regular donors in multiple countries, multiple currencies, and multiple payment service providers. And the way that that payment orchestration was being managed, even though we had Salesforce in the center and many payment service providers on the outside, all of the payment orchestration was being managed through a package of custom integrations. Those custom integrations over the last year have been our absolute greatest problem, our greatest headache. It has required immense resources and effort and time from both my team and consultants that we use. So as we looked at what was the possibilities to replace these, we considered multiple scenarios. One scenario was to rebuild them, to try and make them more robust, more resilient. But after some evaluation, our assumption and prediction was we would simply end up in the same problem at a later point in time. So we began searching the market to find out, is there actually a product that solves this for us? And what we discovered, at least from our point of view, was that this market almost didn't exist. That this idea of having payment orchestration between Salesforce and payment service providers was something quite new, quite unique, but quite typical, especially of nonprofit organizations that were using something like Salesforce, whereas other organizations were maybe using their financial system. So as we started researching possibilities for products to fill this gap, it was then that we came across FinDock. This in any organization and any use of technology, it's my belief, at least, that you buy it before you build it, unless it's something that's going to be a competitive differentiation. Building these integrations, there was no advantage of doing this ourselves if I could buy the product. And it's not just to have the product, but it's to consider the entire life cycle of maintaining that product over time. Every time Salesforce changes something, that integration has to be updated. Every time any one of those payment service providers changes something, and here you have regulatory and compliance and the whole payment and fintech industry evolving really quickly. That's going to be a very complex integration to maintain. So as we further investigated and came into the discussion with FinDock, we found that it fit our needs. It's a product, it's a service, it's maintained, it's updated, and we don't have to be the ones that worry about taking care of the integrations or taking care of the compliance and the updates over time. We can use it as a service, and that was our goal.
Great, thanks. That's a really clear story in choosing a product over a custom solution. And this is something that we actually see in many countries where we are entering and adding new payment methods or new payment channels. This is one of the main challenges that organizations have. Also, of course, for Norway, we did not support the VIPs and the Aftale Giro. And actually, we work together with you and your partner to actually create these or develop these methods. Can you maybe share something about your experience working with FinDock in this creation or developing of this new payment method, but also now because you're already implementing it and parts of it are already live?
Yep. So let's go back a little bit to the beginning of the early discussions with FinDock and the scope of work that we were going to do. Now, as I said earlier, we have regular donors in multiple countries. And the parts that we have in other countries where we're using Go Cardless, this was the first focus, but this is not the majority of our donors. So we had issues there. We needed to resolve them. And this is where we also, in partnership with FinDock, added the additional payment schemes for Go Cardless for both Euro and Swedish krone. But that's still not the majority of our regular donors. The majority of them sit in Norway, even though we are a global organization. Here we use VIPs and direct debit in the Norwegian banking system, otherwise known as avtale giro. And through the contract preparation and the scope clarifications, there we came to an agreement with FinDock to put these additional connections in place to cover the Norwegian market and to cover the majority of our donor audience. When we have then went live with Go Cardless, so this we did several weeks ago. So Go Cardless for both Euro and SEK is working extremely well. Now we're in the final testing stages for VIPs and avtale giro, and our expectation is to go live with this in the very near future.
Great, that's good to hear. And it's also interesting what you're saying with these different kinds of payment methods and payment channels, especially if you work in multiple countries, is that we see many organizations actually have different solutions, but also not a unified payment data model. So payment data is resisting in different silos, databases, all these kind of things, and it's not enriching your 360 view. Okay, good. And the first experiences with the Go Cardless integration are received well in your team as well?
I would say so. To give a really specific example, one of the members of my team who has worked daily since he started with the team about a year ago, his effort has been constantly looking at the data between Salesforce and Go Cardless, checking the quality, doing the reconciliation. It takes so much effort and time and cost related to that. As they were updating and reviewing the payment schedules for Go Cardless here a couple of weeks ago, I overheard him saying, "What am I supposed to do now? And how can you have a better validation that things are working well than something like that?" Of course, we still have a ways to go to increase the automations, follow it, and get the rest of the connectors in place. But we need to be able to focus on taking care of our donors, increasing the donor engagement, donor loyalty. We can't be using our effort on managing payments. That's an unnecessary place for us to use our time, our people, and our spend.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and it's really good if your colleagues or employees can actually add value with the work instead of doing things that should or could be automated or should go by itself. Great. So you're using parts of it. Can you maybe share a little bit on if you're looking at Salesforce and FinDock and how these also would contribute to the long-term goals of NRC?
Now, I think there's several places where it contributes to the long-term goals in quite different ways. So let's take the first one. Even though the payment connectors that we have begun putting in place are based on the payment service providers that we're actively using today. So that solves the immediate issue, solves the immediate problem that we have. But once we have implemented FinDock, then it opens up the possibilities for taking advantage of the other connectors that are there also. So we've added on Stripe already. We're in the process of putting PayPal in. As we add on these additional connectors, which are basically there and ready for us to use, that helps us reach a broader market who wants to use a different type of payment mechanism. And it allows us to go into other countries for recruiting donors where other payment mechanisms are more typical, like PayPal and potentially the use of that in the United States. So that's on one side of it. The other is probably repeating what I said earlier. and that's to make sure that we're using our resources and our time into something that is truly value added towards the engagement with our donors, building donor loyalty, making a connection to our donors that's an extension of the mission of our organization. When I have to put half of my resources into managing payments, then I'm not able to put the effort where it truly should be placed.
Yeah. And you also use like the giving pages, the online donation pages that are part of the FinDock proposition.
Yep.
I think we could even maybe share a link in the chat to show you, and people can use it. Although it's not the Norwegian one yet, right? But how are they working, or how do you experience them?
Very positive. So even though my team is the one who takes care of the systems and the platforms and the donor communication, we work really closely with our global fundraising team and our public engagement team who take care of reaching out to the donors to do the recruiting, to do the initial communication. Things that were done in the past as custom landing pages to manage the donations in multiple languages, in multiple currencies, in multiple countries where we had to develop these landing pages. All of this is being converted over now to using giving pages. So the giving pages and the response of the use of them from the rest of our organization is really positive. They're fast, they're effective, they can be set up and deployed quickly, and we have multiple ideas of how we can even do this further in the future for campaigns, for crisis situations, and even looking at the possibility of using them for people who contact us and say, we want to run our own little fundraising event. Maybe we can use a giving page as a tool or a part of a toolkit to hand out to them where they can then facilitate that.
Great. Not even live for over a month with only a part, and already such a compelling story. Thank you very much, Jamie, and I wish you all the good luck with the last steps in going live with Aftale, Giro, and Vips. And really thank you for your experience and insights you are willing to share with all the other attendants of this webinar.
Thanks for having us join and the good cooperation.
Thanks. Okay. See you later. Really great to hear such positive feedback from customers using FinDock and actually entering new territories, which is also a big step for a customer like the NRC. But this is not something that we do for the first time. We have entered many countries enabling new payment methods and new payment channels. And actually one of the things that we always saw, that payments really need to be a part of your CRM strategy. Don't take them out of the platform, but really integrate it in your CRM. And why is that? That's because customers say, 88% of customers say that their experience with the product or a service is just as important as the product or the service itself. But also employees say that 91% of the employees report that they are really frustrated when they work with technology in their workplace. And 50% of these employees say that the time spent on payment processing is the biggest cost attached to payments. And therefore it's really important to bring it to the platform with a product that actually supports you in do the payment processing instead of frustrates you. And Peter and me had the privilege actually to visit Oslo to attend a world tour in Oslo, and we met many partners and customers in Oslo and talked to them. And also our product team already, of course, did research in the Norwegian market. And a few things that we learned is that Salesforce without standardized payments really comes with challenges. We also heard it in the story of Jamie, the challenges that NRC faced with their custom solutions. But we talked to many more customers, Salesforce customers in Norway, and we more or less heard the same stories over and over. First of all, of course, they have siloed systems. So data is all over different solutions and databases, so they don't have a complete view of their donors. And this results in low data quality and poor insights in campaigns, revenue, all these kind of things. But also in really inefficient processes. Custom solutions sometimes only covered parts of the payment journey, or maybe we're focused on fixing the process, but not looking at how employees can use the solution. And then, of course, if you don't have all these data centralized in one place, it's really hard to actually personalize and engage with donors in a way that they feel acknowledged and that you know them. And then the last part also, what Jamie mentioned, the innovation in the payment industry is always moving forward. New payment methods, new payment challenges, new payment channels, and therefore also the need to adapt your custom solutions to the things that are happening in the market. And that's the challenges that we see. And actually working with FinDock, that will bring you from these challenges to new solutions where you have a complete donor view, you have the history, you know the different payment channels and sources are centralized in this unified payment data model. We can automate a lot of work that your employees are doing now, actually concluding in the question like, hey, what should I do now? As Jamie said, one of his employees said. And you have real-time insights in the campaigns, and not only of what is coming on the online part, but also what comes through bank transfers or direct debits and how it contributes to your campaigns. And of course, because FinDock is a managed package, we ensure new releases, innovations, updates on payment methods and channels. And you don't have to do that by yourself or with support from external parties. But I think we talked enough about what FinDock is and how it works. Let's take some time to actually look at it, how it works in a live environment. So I'm happy to hand it over to Peter to give us a rockin' demo.
Thanks, Klaas. I don't know if it's going to be rocking, but it's going to be a demo, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how we implement the different Norwegian payment processes into FinDock as part of our standardized approach, because the approach we take across different markets is always the same, and the core processes are also always the same. So let's have a look at, I have a couple of slides that give structure to what I'm about to show you. Let's have a look at that and see how that actually lands in FinDock and how that's implemented. As Klaas already alluded to, we are always trying to think about payments in context of a larger journey. In this case, a supporter journey, which has a lot going on, right? So in a journey, we have stuff that happens before a payment. We have follow-up that happens after a payment, like thank you flows and maybe a follow-up if something went wrong. And what FinDock adds into this larger journey is the payment management piece. So this is what we're going to focus on. And for today, I want to talk about three core processes. Online payments with our payment API and giving pages, recurring payments with Aftale Giro and FIPS, and matching and reconciliation of bank statement files and other inbound payment data. So let's start with online payments. And what I did is I used our giving pages to create a giving page with the relevant payment options and the payment methods that we want to display today. So what we have here is our giving page builder, and our giving page builder is first of all fully embedded into Salesforce. This is entirely on the platform. This is where you create, manage and maintain your donation pages. It's a point and click builder, so I can literally just click on an item I want to change the text or change an image, hit save and publish my changes. That goes so far as to even include things like payment methods. So I can select which payment methods I want for my one-time and recurring donations, set defaults for those, and publish that in just one click. This immediately publishes the page to our hosted platform, which means it is actually live right away. you can immediately start using a giving page like this. So this is what we have. We can donate one time or we can donate recurring. I'm going to do a one-time donation. It's going to ask me for some personal details. So let's put in the details for my demo donor for today, Camilla. And Camilla is of course going to donate using VIPs. So once we've selected VIPs, the donation page immediately communicates with the Salesforce backend to register all of the information, deduplicate the donor, etc. So if we go back into Salesforce and refresh our new opportunities for today, we can actually see that the system already has a record now for that donation. So even if Camilla never finalizes her transaction, or maybe her phone died or something, no battery, then we would still have a record of her trying to start a donation. So we can communicate with her about that and do kind of an abandoned cart follow-up process. So let's go back to VIPs and now authorize the transaction. So of course we take the phone number that she earlier put into the donation form and send that along to VIPs. And now we need to open up our VIPs app. You will probably already know how this works. I'm just going to quickly authorize the transaction on my mobile phone. And there we go. And here on screen we can see that Camilla gets redirected to the thank you page. In this case, a built-in thank you page on the giving page, but we can also redirect here to your own website to make sure that they end up on your regular website where you can further engage with them. And of course, because we initiated this transaction from Salesforce, we can also get the real-time update in Salesforce. So if I refresh my screen, you can see that the status of this donation immediately changed from pledged to posted, because now we have that money in our system. What that means is that we now have real-time payment information in CRM. So when we want to send out a thank you message, we don't have to go outside of our CRM. We can just send that message straight from here using the information we have in the donor profile. So what I did is I prepared a small process automation that sends out a thank you message that says, "Hey Camilla, thank you for participating." And because we know who Camilla is and that she's been donating to us for a few years, we can actually include that information into the thank you message, really showcasing that we know who she is and that we appreciate what she's done for us so far. And that real-time update is not just limited to a line-by-line update, but we can also aggregate that information to a campaign performance overview where we can see, hey, how well is this campaign doing, what is going on, and how much money did we already get. And if we zoom out even further, we can actually take a look at payment performance across our entire system and say, what time of day are people actually donating to our organization? What payment channels are they using? Which payment methods are most popular, etc. So when we talk about online payments in the context of FinDock, I think it's good to take away giving pages gives you that ability to publish a page in literally minutes, which is fully responsive. It works just as well on your mobile device as it does on a desktop. It offers you real-time registration of your donations in CRM with automatic deduplication of the donor, and everything creates Salesforce native data, which means that you can use it in reports and dashboards and Salesforce process automations, and it works out of the box with the integrations with, for instance, Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So that is online donations. But the world doesn't stop there, right? Online donations is just one part of an overall end-to-end journey. Because if somebody decides to give monthly, we also need to be able to process those monthly payments. And the way that we do that in FinDock is by setting up a schedule. So rather than having you remembering to run a Aftala Giro or a VIPS run every day, or leaving that up to an external party, we bring that control into Salesforce and allow you to simply schedule recurring payments from here. So once I've set this up and I've told the system I want to collect Aftale Giro every day, if my date that I need to do this is a non-working or non-processing day, then I want you to do some conflict resolution by pulling it forward. And we can simply say, I want to do this every day. I want to submit 2 business days ahead of time, starting June 1st. That is all I have to do. Now, one of our core principles in FinDock is transparency, right? We want you to be able to understand what we're doing with the data, because we are very aware that we are dealing with your payment data. So rather than this being a black box, we create a payment schedule every day or every month, whatever your frequency of collections is. And this payment schedule keeps track of that entire process from start to finish. We can see that this one is already generated, which means it already has a selection of the data that it needs to send out to, in this case, FIPS. And you can manually validate this data, you can check it to see that everything is okay. If you are at a point that the system just does what it needs to do, you can fully automate this process and you don't even need to press a button anymore. It's just going to go through that process and do it automatically. So in this way, FinDock helps you understand what is going on, validate the data, and make sure that you are in full control of that process. So what is important here is that it's first of all a fully automatable process. It becomes person independent, essentially. You don't need to remember to do this because the system is doing it for you. It does it fully automatically. But at the same time, we perform extensive data validation to make sure that when we send something to a processor like MasterCard Payment Services or FIPS, we are actually sending the right thing. We have all the data that we need and that we have the data in the right format. And finally, we have everything again managed from Salesforce. You don't need to go away from Salesforce to process your payments. All of this recurring payment collection stuff is handled right here on the platform. Finally, not everything is processed from your end. Sometimes you just get payments that are happening outside of your systems, outside of your control, but you still want to import and reconcile with the data in Salesforce. For instance, bank statements. People transfer money through your bank account, but you still need that data in CRM. To do that, we have a tool called Guided Matching. And what Guided Matching allows you to do is take a file, in this case it is fully automatically pulled from MasterCard Payment Services into Salesforce, so all of that transport is already done, and when you come in the morning, the system has tried to match every single transaction here. So it automatically validates, did I not process this file before, and this is a file I'm allowed to process, and for an account that I'm allowed to process. But if that all passes, then the system will automatically match those transactions it can, and ask for guidance or help with those it can't automatically process. For instance, here we have an example of a transaction where the system can't quite determine which campaign to allocate to it. Now, because I'm a human and I can make a pretty good guess that that donation for is not actually a part of the campaign name, I can simply search within the application for the right campaign, select it, hit save and continue, and the system will now attempt to process the rest of that donation automatically, which it actually does. And in this case, it even creates a new transaction for me, or a new donation record for me, because there was nothing outstanding or pledged already for this person. So that's a typical donation example. If we have a invoice payment, a simple invoice payment is just as easy as we saw just now, but what happens if we have a more complex multi-invoice payment? Well, here we have a transaction which is a payment for 3 different invoices at once, But because we can do pattern recognition and we can understand what a invoice number looks like, we can still extract that information from the bank transaction, find the relevant transactions in the system, and link the payments to them. Now, normally this would happen fully automatically, but here there's a slight hitch, because the first payment actually aligns, the second one also aligns, but the third one doesn't quite add up. It looks like our payer missed 100 krona in this transaction. Good to know, but it doesn't really affect how we have to handle this transaction. I can still just hit save and continue. The system will still match those transactions, but the final transaction is marked as partially paid rather than fully collected. And if we click into that transaction, we can actually see that we have the payment for 760 krona and that there's 100 krona outstanding. Now, in order to collect that money, we could send an email, we can send a letter, but what the most important part of such an email or letter or other form of communication is the call to action. How are we going to ask this person, Eric Johnson, to actually make that payment? And what I'd like to propose is that the easiest way to do that is to give him a link that he can click and immediately make that payment. And that is why FinDock has FinDock Pay links. So if we have this link, which is present on every single transaction that we process, and it can be easily integrated into an email or a letter as a merge field, this payment link will always ask for the open amount of that installment, that transaction. And Eric can choose how to pay. And we don't need to ask Eric, who are you? What is your email address? We already know. All we need to know is how would you like to pay? And I'm going to use a credit card in this case, which in my system is processed via Stripe. And once we get to the Stripe hosted payment page, we see that Stripe actually offers us Google Pay and Apple Pay integration as well. So I don't even need to enter my credit card details. I can just hit pay with Google Pay. And the transaction is complete. Going back into Salesforce, we can see that the system immediately added a second payment to this transaction for 100 krona paid via credit card, fully automatically reconciling that inbound credit card payment with an earlier bank transfer payment that was a partial payment. We know that processing inbound payment data for a lot of organizations is a huge time sink. It takes a lot of time and effort to process all of that data, to match it to the right donor, to the right contact, to the right invoice or pledge. And with guided matching, because we have fully configurable rules, you can standardize this process and match your existing matching processes, because you already have a process to do this. You know how to match to your existing donor. And guided matching allows you to capture that and put it into the system. One of the big things that takes a lot of time in this process is usually error handling. If you have faulty matches, if somebody made a mistake, tracking down where it went wrong and correcting that issue takes so much time. So if we can standardize that process and make sure that it's done the same way every single time, that helps lower the error rate and helps preserve data integrity overall. And all of that leads to an incredible increase in efficiency. When we spoke to our customers about what they experienced using FinDock, one of the things that stood out to us is that they tell us that they spend 70% less time on reconciling inbound payment data, which is a huge time win. So those are three of the core processes that I wanted to discuss. I think back to you, Klaas.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. And I think it was a rocking demo, by the way.
Thanks.
And this demo brings us to the end of the webinar. Really, thank you very much for attending. And feel free to engage with us in different ways. We are organizing more webinars together with Salesforce. In the next week, 4 weeks in a row, we will actually cover the full fundraising cycle together with our colleagues from Salesforce. And you're really invited to also watch these webinars. And if you are interested to get in touch with us to learn more, maybe you want a demo for your own organization, feel free to reach out. You see the contact details on the slide. And we are happy to connect and to understand what your needs and pains are and how we with FinDock can actually help you and add value in your Salesforce environment. So once again, thank you, and I hope we'll meet again.